4. If you're too shy to confront them, you can take an obvious step back when someone offers a hug. They'll get the hint. You can also combine verbal and nonverbal cues. Take a big step back and say, "Thank you, but I'll pass on the hug. By the way, how's your day going?" 5. It may be useful to follow up with a supervisor, providing a physical or digital record explaining your interaction with the employee and your discussion with them. This will reinforce the message that you're not messing around. What's in a name? The complexity and importance of what we call each other. In the realm of managing disagreements and personal boundaries, the importance of correctly pronouncing and using names is an overlooked yet crucial factor. As Dale Carnegie stated, "A person's name is to him or her the sweetest and most important sound in any language." Remember Operation Desert Storm in the early 90s? President George Bush Sr. made the political and psychological maneuver of changing the pronunciation of Saddam Hussein's name from Saddam, which means learned one or leader, to Sodom, which translates to beggar or shoe black, considered one of the worst insults in the Arab world. Sullivan, 2003, Knight Ridder News Service, 1991. With this subtle shift, he managed to insult and undermine the Iraqi leader on an international stage. Although mispronouncing a name in most cases does not turn it into an insult, it can be equally offensive, whether the action was intentional or unintentional. Now, what does this have to do with managing difficult conversations in the workplace? The name issue in professional settings. In a workplace context, mispronunciations or careless nicknames can ignite underlying tensions. For example, a supervisor would call people, myself included, bud or buddy. The tension would build in the morning and dissipate by the afternoon. "Hey there, bud," the well site supervisor called to me as he walked by every morning. I never cared for being called bud or buddy, but I'd gotten used to it. For simplicity, names like Nicholas usually became Nick. Tolmasov became Tom, and Eduardo became Eddie. However, it is essential to verify if individuals actually prefer these nicknames. Some people have heard their names butchered so often that they have resigned themselves to any close approximation. However, you can be the coworker who takes the time to get it right, asking how they would like to be addressed and respecting their preference. This simple act can build rapport and foster a culture of respect and openness. Names are more than just labels. They are personal markers of our identities that carry history, culture, and personal significance. They reflect one's heritage and family history. It is not merely a matter of personal preference. It signifies a deep connection to one's roots. Acknowledging and respecting this choice is another way to navigate personal boundaries successfully. Although the stakes may not be as high as in international politics, the principle remains. Getting a name right can be a small but significant step toward easing workplace tensions and fostering respectful communication. Finding common ground. Managing disagreements. On a chilly fall day, the air is cool and crisp, signaling winter is near. The scent of spruce mixes with the earthy smell of fallen leaves. The bright blue sky highlights the snowy peaks in the distance, and the temperature stays in the 40s, dropping cooler in the evenings. In this frosty setting, two operators argued about why production was down on a gas well. The lead operator swore the well was hydrated off, with ice forming inside because of the moisture and pressure differential down inside the well. His subordinate argued that the well was loaded up with water. Both had their reasons, but only one could be right, meaning the other was wrong. The goal was to get the well flowing at an optimal rate as quickly as possible. The issue was that treating each possible cause would require different strategies. If it was water, the simplest and most cost-effective solution was to drop a soap stick down the well, creating bubbles that would lift the water up and out of the well. However, if the well was frozen due to hydration, we would have had to use methanol to melt the ice. The operator, who thought the well was loaded up, decided to take matters into his own hands. Eager to prove his point, he took the swab cap off the well and started dropping soap sticks into it, listening for the sound of water. The lead operator pulled onto the pad, and the heated argument kicked up a notch. The two were yelling and arguing when water started gushing from the open swab valve behind them. The well was indeed watered up. The argument's rapid escalation could have been less about the situation at hand and more about the characters involved. The lead operator tended to initiate conflicts, which caused him to bounce from one facility to another. His subordinate, an ex-military paramedic, was a no-nonsense type who'd grown weary of his persistent confrontations. The tension had been simmering for a while, and this incident was another lesson learned. After the heated exchange, the operators just grumbled and walked away. At that moment, they didn't have the right words or the willingness to understand what had happened. However, over time, one of the operators had an insight into it and decided to share it with me. Perhaps, instead of arguing, I could have said, "I understand your experience leads you to think it's hydrated off, and it makes a lot of sense, but on the off chance that it's loaded up with water, dropping a few soap sticks is quicker and easier than hauling in equipment and expensive chemicals." Such an approach might have de-escalated the situation, creating a sense of partnership instead of opposition. When it comes to dealing with conflict with another employee, it helps to have at least a cursory idea of what may work to help a situation. Actively listening demonstrates respect and assists with understanding. Collaborating helps parties work together and mediate. Staying calm prevents escalation and creates a constructive atmosphere. Communicating clearly and deliberately addresses issues and helps find resolutions. Negotiating and compromising help find the ideal outcome. Although each technique may prove effective on its own, combining them based on the specific context and individuals involved often yields the most favorable results. Use your inside voice. When our daughter first started kindergarten, the importance of volume in communication came front and center when I met her teacher, Mr. Hunter, a slender man wearing a purple shirt with a tie and black loafers. He was a mere 8 years out of college. Yet despite being the same age as my wife and I, his teaching skills were far more advanced than the ones we had as new parents. He exuded gentle authority with his soft demeanor and unwavering disposition. His eye contact, consistently pleasant and welcoming, coupled with his flat tone and low volume, enriched his already buttery voice. Here was a teacher who spoke with the experience of a seasoned professional. Observing him at work, I witnessed the tactical use of his controlled volume working upon his young pupils. He would marshal them into a line along the wall, every movement echoing a drill. Occasionally, a child would drift out of line, but Mr. Hunter, ever vigilant, would approach, crouch down, and in a whisper, ask the student to please move back against the wall, pointing to their spot with a slender finger. At pickup time, he would stand firm, raising a hand in a call for silence. Every young eye would fixate on that raised hand, awaiting the next command. This ability to captivate with minimal volume was bewitching. I only knew how to use volume to achieve the goal. While some might label him soft-spoken, I would claim he has a real knack for controlling his volume. Volume, whether in tone or cadence, profoundly conveys our emotions. A high volume signals that we are irate or passionate, but a lowered or soft voice often compels listeners